Hi everyone, welcome to Reading the Game, where we don't just focus on the basic things football podcasts focus on, but also on tactics, mental health, business, and most prominently, intelligence while playing. I'm your host Ethan Reichert, and today I'm joined once again by Peter Reichert, who has 25 years of coaching experience and a UEFA B license. Today we'll be talking about how to fix Barca's problems. Well, this is quite a big topic and quite an emotional topic for me, as I've been a Barca fan since the age of 7, I think. Ever since
the golden years.
Yeah. I just had them to join when Guardiola in 2009, 2010, 2011. Oh, those are the years, man.
They were fun to watch at that time.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was a United fan.
Yeah,
I was a little kid, United fan. And then all of a sudden Barca play them in the final and destroy them,
like, pass them to death.
Dad, who's that team? And it's Barca. But, right now it's kind of a love-hate relationship.
I know how that feels.
Yeah. They're not doing too great. And I think they're 7th in the standings currently as we record. We just recording this after the Valencia game. So, yeah, they're not doing too great. A lot of poor results. And it's really a year of transition with Messi gone. They're over $1 billion in debt, and their squad's just kind of all over the place. So what would you say is Barca's biggest problem right now?
Well, I mean, at some point Messi was going to leave. And I'm just wondering how much they paid, salary-wise over the last how many years to have him in the squad, like his salary. And at some point there was going to be a transition of, between the old era and this era. And, I think that could have been handled differently. But it wasn't. So
yeah, I wish it ended differently.
And I think maybe there's some bad luck. We've talked about the Dembele, Coutinho, big money signings for Neymar, didn't seem to pan out quite like they might have hoped to help ease the transition. But I think that transition could have been handled differently. And I have some ideas, maybe what might have gone on. But they're in the boat they're in now. So now I think you have to just speak from the situation they're in now, not maybe what could have been, but where they're at now.
And I think one of the most important things to keep in mind when we're looking at Barca's problems is their financial situation. And they're at the point where they can't fire Koeman because they can't afford to pay $10 million to fire him. So they really are in a financial crisis right now, and they can't go out and sign the next best players. It's just not feasible, and they have to watch their salaries and potentially sell players that we might not want to leave.
Yeah, I'm not sure how La Liga calculates it, but they're talking about Barca's salary cap being 7 times less than Real Madrid. So for whatever reason, however that's calculated, based on earnings, Barca's very reliant on tourists. It's kind of like sports tourism. And so with COVID, obviously that's had a huge impact on stadium visits and the like. And so, but when you the squad didn't want to take pay cuts during COVID, so you're paying off huge salaries during that time to big name players when you're not bringing income. And I think they paid the price for a little bit of that.
Yeah. And I want to talk about probably one of the most important people when it comes to a team playing, and I would say that's the coach, setting up the team, the tactics, and just creating a positive atmosphere. Koeman's the coach right now. He's beloved by Barca.
Is he?
By Barca fans, not as a coach, but as a player.
As a player, he's beloved.
Yeah. However, Koeman's not the greatest coach. He just doesn't have the quite tactical mind that is needed nowadays. He has done some great things in renewing the squad and getting players that will listen to him, and we saw problems with players not listening to the coach with Setike, and how much of a mess that was. So like by getting rid of players like Suarez, Griezmann, Messi, now he has a team that will listen to tactical instructions. So in some ways, he's done a great job and incorporating young talent like Pedri, Gavi, Nico Gonzalez. But in other ways, tactically, he's not the greatest, as seen his results in La Liga.
He's in a tough situation. He doesn't have, the players that they used to have. He doesn't have the salaries that they used to have. And he's dealing with players and a squad that, isn't his. And so he's being handed this kind of like mix mash of players and trying to deal with it. I think Koeman's decent. He may not be, the most progressive coach, from the German schools of, counter-pressing and that. But, watching the game last night, I thought they were well organized. I had some question marks, but you always have question marks. You wonder why a coach does that or why a coach does this. And for sure, I think in some positions they can improve. But I thought they looked reasonably solid, and they pressed a lot better than they had in the past. And the guy always said when you had Messi and Suarez, he could never press. It was impossible to press with those two players. And we saw that when they played Liverpool a couple years ago. They just couldn't press with those two players. And now, they have little younger legs up there, and they were pressing. And then the whole team was kind of moving up as a unit pressing. So could you find a higher level tactical coach? I think you can, but like you and I have talked about, I think for this next period, this is maybe a little transitional period. Managing this transition was always going to be like a not a great job. They're talking now about the Newcastle job. This isn't the job. They got big money coming into Newcastle, and it's like, do you want the job now or do you want it in 4 years? And it's like, you don't want to be the first coach. You want to be like the second coach, because the first coach is going to have all these expectations, but it takes a while to get something going. Yeah. So Koeman's like, he's kind of that interim coach. Call it like maybe a Solskjaer type, like hopefully, but an interim guy that kind of from the club that kind of balance things out. But I think that in the long term, the expectation has to be lower. I mean, in the short term, long term.
I definitely agree. And there's no room to get another coach right now because of the financial issues, and you can't afford to get rid of Koeman. Luckily, his contract does end at the end of the year. Who would you suggest to replace that role?
Well, I think there's only one name, right? Xavi, and I'll tell you why. And it's because you need to buy yourself time. Certain names, certain people have history with a club, and they allow themselves time when things go wrong. And you could look at someone like Zidane and Madrid. A guy like that was going to always have a little bit extra grace when things didn't go quite right, in order to get to the good times. And so, I already mentioned Solskjaer. But so right now, that's the name on everybody's lips, and really, no one is going to make everybody happy until it's him. You're kind of at that point, right? Like, is that not how you feel? Like, yeah, that's who you want.
It's the guy. He's the guy.
And
whether he's there tactically, that's the question.
I don't know. I watched this masterclass video today in Spanish
with the Al-Sad, his team in guitar.
Yeah, he's talking about his ideas and his philosophies. And
no, he's a smart player, and you can see that through the way he plays.
Well, he's brilliant.
But whether he can translate that into
he seems to have
tactical intelligence.
Seems to have the right ideas. He's definitely a Barca guy, and he's gonna give you time. So I think the first thing to do is, even now, they shouldn't be talking about Barca with Koeman winning the league, or what's your league position. I mean, they're only a few points off the top. Realistically, in a season where you've got rid of like Messi, like the goal should not be to win the league. The goal should be to qualify for Champions League and put like a youthful, like Barcelona type team out that like makes the fans happy, that is building something in the future, like with like the right salaries and prepping, for the future and getting in the Champions League and then seeing how you do. And really that I would sell that early on to give the coach, 2 to 3 years to say, okay, this project is not complete. It's going to take several years to put the missing pieces in, to bring in the pieces that we want, to take this project where we want. We're going to entertain. We're going to like go out and win games. But this is a youthful team. We talked about that. Messi did his debut, and then the team was like Puyol, Rafa Marquez, Eto'o, Ronaldinho, Deco loaded with like veteran players. He went into a structure and like that can't compare to right now. So yes, you've got these young Spanish superstars like Ansu got, Gavi, is it Gavi?
Gavi.
And Pedri and Puig and, and some, nice young defenders. These are young kids. So can you win the Champions League with like, these really youthful team?
You can't, but as a Barca fan, nothing excited me more in the past 3 years than seeing Ansu Fati on his debut and absolutely tearing up that, I think it was the right flank he played on that day. He was in his burst of speed and just the youthfulness and thinking, wow, that guy's only like a few years older than me. Like, what's he doing out there? Nothing excites me more than seeing youthful La Masia players playing tiki-taka. And that's just what I saw watching with Guardiola and, the ideals he brings in. So talking about youth talent, the current squad is a very weird mix of a lot of young players that are really, really talented and a few players that are probably on the older side, close to retiring. Some legends at the club for sure. What would you think?
Yeah, and the two players we're gonna name, are like Piqué and Busquets. Like, time to be put out the pasture, but that at the same time that runs contrary to what we just talked about. So this need for, a little bit of like, you
need veterans,
a veteran steady. Okay, you go down, you go down. You're in, you go to Atletico Madrid. You go down and go like whatever. You need people that can calm a squad. Say it's okay. They know how. So, but at the same time, let's be honest. Like Piqué still seems to do okay. Busquets is, he's got genius, but in that position of the field, like I think he needs to start less games. We need to start looking at. Sure. He needs to start think about what's going to be versus what is, and he can't be the future.
And you have to transition a role of people who are the examples inside the club. So if you look at players, I think the perfect example of this is De Jong and Sergio Roberto. Sergio Roberto might leave, and whether he should leave, that's up to discussion. But those two players they're not the youngest players. Yes, De Jong is pretty young, but those are the next players that will be the leaders in the squad, in my opinion. And so you kind of need to transfer, not the leadership, but the ideals of helping out young players. And I do think we need more veterans in the squad. Whether Piqué and Busquets are the right ones, I'm not sure.
Kind of missing that. Yeah. You're kind of missing that next layer. That's kind of what we talked about is, shouldn't have been at this point where there's so many young players without that next level because like I don't know that Sergio Roberto is like a starter.
Oh no, for sure. No, he's not at all.
And so who do you I'm just looking at the squad and I'm looking at someone that's been there more than 3 years. That's from Barca. That's like,
maybe Ter Stegen, but
yeah, I mean, yes, he's, yes, but you can just see there's a gap. And that's kind of a failing there. We threw out a name from Thiago from Liverpool, just as
if his contract runs down,
just as an idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a guy. Okay, Spanish international. He's not going to be overawed by, the stage.
He's already been there.
Yeah,
like he
right.
Like came through La Masia. He came up with Guardiola and Messi.
So at least, and I'm not sure that they need him per se at that position, but it just is an example of the type of player that they might be looking to add one or two of. But this goes to kind of the philosophy of the club. And so if you can get a long-term coach like Xavi with a 3-year, kind of plan, 4-year plan, and tailor your signings around that, that philosophy. And the example that I'll give here is like Coutinho. Coutinho came in when you still had Messi. And, the question is, okay, this guy should be able to get in the team, but where does he play? Where does he fit? Like the system. And when you look at the system, it's kind of like, okay, does he fit in the wing? Does he go in midfield? There's a question mark. So then why is he a target? And so you need to be putting people into the system that fit into the system precisely. So now that you've kind of cleared the deck, come in the club, have cleared the deck. They don't have this, they don't have Griezmann anymore. That kind of, plays kind of in like where Messi might, so there's another example, maybe this would have been a year to have somebody like that come in, you know what I mean? Like, but you don't double up on positions. You don't bring somebody in when there's already somebody there. So
at least for big money,
right?
And not until you're at the stage where you're City and you can afford to do that in a way. But definitely looking at the squad in a practical sense, I would say using youth is the best way to get out of this financial situation. You can give them smaller salaries and they'll be happy, and you're developing them in your system, and you're also not relying on paying extra money for signings. I will say there are a few players that are close to the end of their contract, and I'll name one right away. Onana from Ajax, as a goalkeeper, he came up in La Masia. His contract ends at the end of the year, and I think he would be a perfect number 2 for Ter Stegen. And even because he's a younger goalkeeper in goalkeeping terms, so I think when Ter Stegen is finally ready to be done with Barca, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That Onana could take up and step up with the shoes, but
that's about not okay. So you have a squad like look at those guys. They played pretty well.
Yeah, they played great.
Look how they like some of the football they were playing. These young players like playing quite well. So you're not in a panic. This is not a group. They may not win the league. They're not at Simeone has Atletico fine-tuned, like he's right, built that team up, right where wants them. You'll get there. And like you said, you just need to keep your eye out and be very wise with who you bring in until the financial situation stabilizes.
And I think one thing we can do is sell players. I think one player that has to go, no questions asked, is Braithwaite.
Your favorite, huh?
Yeah,
you like to see him warming up?
He's not my favorite player, let's just say, in nice terms. There's a few players in the squad. They've already gotten rid of a lot of the dead weight in the squad, but I think he's the next that really has to go. The next ones are potentially Langley and Umtiti, both left-footed central defenders that haven't really gotten the game time with the rise of Araujo, Mingueza, Garcia.
And I mean, those are some good players. Like Araujo is he looks really good. I guess time will tell whether they, they.
But for now, Umtiti hasn't been in the plans for 3 years. He needs to. You need to get him out. You need to get some cash.
It's a spot, and it's a spot for somebody else to play. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, how would your team look if you're shaping it? You're starting a lineup
with this group right here.
Yeah. You want me to go first?
Well, right now Dembele's hurt, right?
Yeah. You can use Dembele because he's in the squad.
Well, I mean, then you use them, right? Him and Ansu Fati,
Oh yeah,
probably up front.
I agree. Yeah.
And where you start changing is the midfield. And I'm not on the field every day with these midfielders, so that to know Gabi, Pedri, Puig, like to really know their traits inside out. But like I would say that De Jong, it goes into Busquets' role sooner than later.
I 100% agree. That's why Barca bottom was to replace Busquets, and
so
I think that's where he needs to be playing.
Depending on the opposition, whether Coutinho can play in the midfield, if you're playing a team that you're going to dominate, there's no reason Coutinho can't play as a 10.
Oh yeah,
right. Like this guy's a creative player. He's a genius.
If you can get him to play like he did, like to be the Coutinho that Barca signed, it would be a phenomenal like turn of events.
I guess the only question is Memphis. Is Memphis? What do you think of Memphis? Is he the?
He's a short-term solution. Ideally, you kind of want to go Haaland, but with the money situation right now, that's not feasible. I hear that Laporta is working on, I think, or the sponsors or somebody's working on creating loans for Haaland, and I think, honestly, if you're talking like literally, I think signing Haaland would pay from shirt sales alone. So I don't think that'd be a problem, and I do think not to start the next Messi, Ronaldo, Mbappe, Haaland debate, but Haaland will be the best player in the world, and he's already starting to prove that. And so I think,
and you are Barca, so you want those. You
want those difference makers. Haaland's scored almost the goal every game at Dortmund, so his class is something else. If you can have somebody who moves on the field like Haaland, with midfielders as creative as De Jong, Pedri, Gavi, Coutinho, Ansu Fati, even like. You'll create so many goals.
So who's your midfield three?
Me, this is a bit...
you can make two. You can make one for a team that's like, okay, with Coutinho, and then one without Coutinho.
Yeah, this is a bit controversial. I would probably go De Jong in defensive mid with Pedri and Gavi. Obviously, you need more than just three midfielders for a team. It's a long season. So you could rotate Coutinho into one of those higher midfield spots, and another player, like again, we don't have the money for him, but if he was available, I love the look of Phil Foden. He's such a great player. He fits Barca's identity, sharp with the ball, good eye for a pass. I think he fits the way Barca plays, and I think that's the reason Guardiola has him at Man City.
And it would certainly, from a shirts and bringing in an English player and of that nature, I think he'd be appreciated at Barca.
Yeah, and I think he fits perfectly. But any of those five midfielders playing, I think, would keep the ball away from any midfield, even if you had three Kantes.
And as far as a left back,
yeah, Alba has some clear deficiencies defensively. Left back, that's not too hard to realize. I think with the ball, he's by far the best in the world. His pinpoint crosses are they're just insane. But obviously you're looking at somebody who can defend better. And again, I'm speculating again. If you had the money, you go for Alphonso Davies. Yes, I'm biased. I'm Canadian, but Davies, I think he's the next left back. The next closest is Theo Hernandez at AC Milan, but I think Davies is something special with his just raw pace, and I just think he's something else. But obviously, if you can't go for that move,
but why not? I think from a salary perspective, I don't think he's going to price you out yet. He's not. I don't think he's going to have a crazy salary yet compared to some players.
No, yeah. Salary wise, it'll be fine. It's just the transfer game away from Bayern Munich.
I wonder what his salary is. I wonder what his, how many years he's got.
Yeah, but obviously, if you can't get Davies, there's a clear choice in Alejandro Balde. I think he's 17, 18, coming from La Masia. He's he looks like one of the next left backs, best left backs in the world. From what I've seen, he's very athletic, and obviously he's been raised in La Masia, and so he already has that tiki-taka identity. And I think he's the Jordi Alba's successor if you don't have the money to spend.
So I think your squad's in a good spot. Like I think if ride out this year with Koeman, like everybody kind of wanted to like may pull the plug, but I think it's probably better. You've got rid of some of the older players, the veterans. Player power's kind of gone, and then it clears the slates. Bring in Xavi and let him go to work next year.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But yeah, I think there's one last clear problem, and that's defensively.
Where are you looking? Center back?
Center back, yeah, I'm looking, yeah.
And you don't think you got enough there with
don't
Araujo?
get me wrong, I think Garcia, Mingueza, and Araujo,
I'm not sure about Garcia yet. I haven't seen him play enough to.
they're fantastic on the ball. I mean, they match Barca's identity. All three of them came from La Masia. No, not Araujo, but Mingueza and Garcia came from La Masia. Araujo was brought in. He looks like he's probably the better of the three. Am I wrong?
He looks like dominant physically. When I just watching, just looks like wins. He's got that speed. I mean, your Barca, you got to have speed at your center back.
If you're playing the ball around, you have to have fast center backs and recover.
And watching Xavi talk about his tactics, he's willing to go 1v1 in the back so that he can high press. So you got to have a center back with a lot of pace. So who are you thinking if you were going to add him?
Oh, and this one's hard because Liverpool had to run in by Konate and Bayern had to run in by Upamecano. So no, there are plenty of good center backs out there. I think it's just about choosing the one that fits perfectly. Here's a wild card: Botman from Lille, 6'4". I think he's from the Netherlands. I could be wrong on that. But he's left-footed, very good with the ball, very dominant. There was rumors about him going to the Premier League this year. He looks like a player, but then again, he's a bit of a wild card. The next center back that I would look at is maybe Delict, currently at Juventus. He's had a few quiet years. I'm not sure if he's playing or injured.
No, he's playing, and he's definitely had an education. There at Juventus.
Yeah, coming through the Ajax Academy, basically a brother academy of La Masia.
Yeah. And then a defensive education over there at
they say that Juventus has changed him defensively, and he's just become a whole different monster, learning from Bonucci and Chiellini. The Italian defense. And the next one, the last one, I mean, obviously there's more options, but I just came up with three, is Fofana at Leicester. He kind of broke through. He's had great years. There's rumors about him going to United, rumors about him going, I think, to Real. He just is a solid defender, good with the ball. I mean, there's plenty of
what's
options.
The center back? Who's at City right now? What's the...
Are you talking about Laporte or are you talking about Ruben Diaz?
Diaz.
Yeah. You like Diaz?
Yeah. He's done pretty well.
If you can get him away from City, yeah. I mean, why not? I'm not sure Guardiola's going to let him go after spending all that money. Well, do you think there's any other problems?
No, I think you're on the right track.
Yeah.
They need a new general manager.
Yeah, they can call me whenever. So thank you, Peter, for joining me today.
No problem.
If you guys have enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to follow us on Instagram, where we'll be able to notify you when an episode comes out. If you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, you can check out our website in the link below, which contains the notes from these episodes and extra articles. Thanks for listening to Reading the Game, and have a fantabulous day.